In the last 12 months, we've made over $1 million profit utilizing a strategy that allows us to sell our wholesale deals on the MLS, aka a Novation. This is the new and improved way of wholesaling that so many people in real estate are finally waking up to. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how we structure these deals, how we run our comps, and how we make significantly more money per deal utilizing this strategy. We've worked with over 100 real estate agents across the country doing this, and I'm going to give you the exact process we use. The first thing we need to do is understand the difference between a traditional wholesale deal and a Novation deal. In a traditional wholesale deal, you're locking up a property with a seller and then selling that contract to an investor who's going to repair the property for an assignment fee. Utilizing Novations, we're able to take properties that are still in good condition, list them on the market, and earn a fee by selling to a financed buyer utilizing FHA, VA, or conventional financing, oftentimes getting us a lot more money for the properties if we were to sell to a cash buyer. Throughout my brother and I's experience on the #1 team for real estate sales in the country, doing billions of dollars a year in sales, we realized the tips, the tricks, and the methods to get the most exposure on the MLS possible, and that is exactly why we decided to implement it into our business. Since we're able to sell these properties to people who are utilizing financing, we're able to sell them for a lot more money, which means two things. One, the spread's bigger, but two, we can offer a lot more to the sellers than a traditional wholesaler can. At one point, we had 40 of these deals going at once when it was just my brother and I without any other team members. We're able to do that by leveraging the real estate agents as an additional support for the deal. In a traditional wholesale deal, you're looking at the properties, doing a formula of 75 to 80% of after repair value and subtracting repairs costs as well as your wholesale assignment fee. With Novations, it's a lot more simple. We look at what the property would sell for on the market. We subtract 10% from that for agent commissions, closing costs, as well as any seller concessions we offer to the buyers, and then we subtract our fee, making it a much simpler process on the back end for our acquisitions team. The easiest way to do this is looking in the same neighborhood as the subject property and finding properties that are exactly like yours. Same square footage, same bathrooms, bedrooms, as well as a similar style, so you know what buyers are looking for in the area. Another thing to keep in mind is also the year the property was built and the type of construction that it is. A lot of these properties that we novate are typically in better condition than a traditional wholesale deal. That doesn't mean they're always perfect. So if there are repairs, you might need to take off additional money to account for that. One thing we did to make this process incredibly seamless for us and our team was develop calculators specifically for this transaction type to tell us exactly what to offer on these properties. Unlike a lot of traditional wholesale businesses, we typically don't start with a cash offer. Our thought process behind this is we don't want to tick the seller off by offering them an incredibly low amount to then just bring them to a higher amount afterwards. Some people think that might be counterproductive. However, in our business, we've found that it helps our conversion rate with sellers accepting our offers by a long shot. After the acquisition team has been on the phone with these sellers for at least 10 to 15 minutes, they've gotten the appropriate information to make the offer. We have them place the sellers on a brief hold for 2 to 3 minutes. This allows them to run the comps, make sure their numbers are correct, and formulate what offer they're going to give to the seller. Once the acquisition team gets back on the phone, we let them know that their property has been approved to be purchased through what we call our concierge program. We let the sellers know that this is a little bit different than a cash offer. To get them a higher amount, we're going to be working with our agents, contractors, and end buyers in the area to get this property sold for them. A lot of common objections we get in our business is, why don't I just list it with a real estate agent? And it's a very, very simple response. Oftentimes when agents are listing these properties, there are things that come up in inspection periods and unknowns that the sellers end up having to pay for. These are things that we and our team take care of. Now, you don't have to come out of pocket for this. You can absolutely pay for these at closing. However, a lot of times a seller doesn't have an extra $5,000 to $10,000 to make these repairs before putting it on the market to sell it for the top dollar. Another common objection we and our team get is people don't want the traditional listing to have open houses, yard signs, and everything that comes with telling everyone you're selling your property. The good thing is that we structure this with the real estate agents to only allow vetted and financially able buyers into the home at predetermined times to make sure that we're not interrupting the lives of the sellers, making it a seamless transaction for them. Doing a Novation deal, you need a little bit more paperwork than a traditional wholesale deal. You're obviously going to have your purchase contract, but on top of that, you're going to have what's called an attorney in fact, or AIF. This is the document that allows you to actually list the property on the MLS and accept an offer on behalf of the seller. Think of it as a limited power of attorney. With With all the real estate agents we work with, we let them know that this is a 90-day listing period. If the property doesn't sell within 90 days, it's mostly because our team did something wrong or something catastrophic has gone wrong in the marketplace. When running our numbers, we always look at what price is going to move the property. And that's the sales price that we shoot for when running our numbers. One of the biggest things to have success in a novation deal is setting the proper expectations with the sellers so they're aware of everything that's going to happen in this transaction. On the very first call that our transaction team makes to these sellers, we walk them through a 5 to 10 minute script, line by line, of exactly how the transaction will take place, what they can expect, and what we will be doing to ensure that it's a smooth transaction for them. This typically takes down all of the barriers they have put up and eases them into working with us during this transaction period. From years of experience of networking with real estate agents, we have learned the do's and the don'ts. We have learned exactly what agents are looking for in people that they want to partner with, and we have put this into our scripts, templates, and team to make sure that we're finding the top people to list these properties to make us all the most amount of money. One of the biggest things you can look for in a real estate agent is someone that has a little bit of an online presence, someone that shows that they're not only willing to market the properties, but themselves. They're out there putting in the work, putting in the effort, making the time for their business to be seen, which in turn will help you sell the property much quicker. Generally, because we are bringing the properties to the agents without them having to pay for marketing, door knock, cold call, or list flyers out anywhere, we go with a 5% flat fee. We've already accounted for this in our numbers, so it's not going to screw up the calculations or the projected fee that we hope to make on the property. One of the biggest things that can blow up your novation deal quicker than anything is agents not knowing how to handle the transaction. Having a robust training in place for these agents to handle these deals specifically is imperative if you want to scale this process. What I'd like to do is talk about one of the deals that we're actually working on right now. At the time of recording this on Friday, it'll be closed by Monday, probably making anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 on the final settlement. We'll put a screenshot right below of what that final number is by the time this video comes out. So this property is a 5-bed, 7-bathroom home in St. Charles, Missouri. We locked the property up for $820,000 and then listed the property on the MLS for $925,000. Within 3 days of being on the market, we went under contract at a full asking price with the seller who is utilizing conventional financing. After we pay for the agent fees, closing costs, as well as some minor repairs that we've done to the property, we'll net anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 for this single transaction. Some of the terms for this type of specific deal you want to look out for is your close of escrow days. One thing that's going to help you drastically in this strategy is extending that timeline to give yourself amount of time to market the property on the market as well as close with a buyer. Oftentimes when people are utilizing traditional financing, it takes at least 30 days after you've signed the contract with them to close. Another thing to make sure is your due diligence period follows the timeline of your close of escrow. The last thing you want to do is have your option period run out before you know if the property has been sold. And lastly, of course, making sure that the attorney in fact document that I mentioned before is signed in the initial paperwork. A great example of some real estate agent relationships that have really worked out for us and our team is a gentleman named Brandon who runs all of our Ohio properties. It started with one property a year and a half ago and has turned into a steady stream of business for him and us, allowing us to not worry or spend time on our properties in Ohio. One of the best things about finding an agent that you're able to build a long-term relationship with is you can typically offload some of the work to them to utilize them as almost an extension of your team. When you find agents who do good work and are incredibly reliable, you want to make sure you're taking care of them to allow yourself to bring more business to them and keep them on your team. One of the biggest things about working with agents is making sure they're reliable. If they don't pick up, if they take long to respond, and they don't put importance on what you're saying, oftentimes they're not the right people for you. As I mentioned before, our transaction process is meticulous from the very first phone call to the day of closing. We have it set up exact step-by-steps to ensure that as little goes wrong as possible with each transaction. These exact processes were how my brother and I were able to do up to 40 deals at a time when it was just the two of us. One of the most important aspects of that entire process is the showings and access that the agent will need to set up. When you first get the property under contract and you have an agent go out there, they're gonna need to verify condition, pricing, as well as schedule access with the sellers if the property is not vacant to be able to bring in potential buyers. The scripts that we've created for our team and the training we've put together for our agents are how to handle these situations exactly. An example of this would be when a seller doesn't necessarily want a lockbox put on their property, but they also also don't want to be there for the showings. How are we going to mitigate that and handle that situation? In this situation, a creative workaround that we found works for us is having the lockbox stored in the property with the seller, and when they leave the home during the showing, they place it outside for the agent to still have access to the property. We've worked on hundreds of properties across countless markets in 15 different states. The reason most people aren't doing this is because most wholesale operations are still stuck in the old mindset of only working with investors who are cash buyers. If you want to learn more about how we're doing this, click on the link in the description to find out more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.